and Muscat, actually, I love pouring that for people because people, certainly who haven't experienced it before, just the look on their face. It's like nothing else. You know, you don't get that with Shiraz or Chardonnay or anything like that. It's those intense characteristics they just love. The Muscat and Topaques is our main draw cut. That's why people know Rutherglen. And, you know, you mention Rutherglen, they say, oh, stickies, fortifieds or Muscat. And we say, yeah, and that's great. And they come and they might buy a bottle. But obviously we've got these lovely long autumns where we get really rich fruit. And that's where the whites and the reds most particularly really stand out.
Today, we're diving into a winery that's part of Australia's first family of wines, and they're celebrating 155 years of winemaking with the family business. We're talking about Campbell's Wines from Rutherglen, and we're talking to Managing Director Jane Campbell. I'm Jason.
And I'm Trent, and we're on an unapologetically unprofessional, unfiltered wine journey. And we're saying here, Jace.
Our saying is drink more, try more, learn more. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Jane, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We were hearing that you were enjoying a good time out on the harbour yesterday. What was happening yesterday that brings you to Sydney?
We were, every year we do a Campbell's Cellar Club lunch or dinner, and that was our annual Cellar Club lunch. So my voice is quite husky because I was doing a lot of talking. It gets wine lunches or dinners tend to get louder.
Yeah.
Yes.
From the beginning, it just rolls, and it certainly did yesterday. So we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was beautiful being on the harbour. Yeah.
Fortified wine helps soothe the throat, though, right?
Yes, it's good. It's a good selling point. Absolutely. I remember that. I actually dodged the muskets at the lunch yesterday. So
that's the problem.
Yeah, I know it is, obviously.
Well, we want to hear more about Campbell's Wines, Rutherglen, your story. First up, we're going to ask you the Wind Up Icebreaker question. So I'll hand to Trent.
Okay, first one. Most memorable wine or most memorable wine moment?
Oh, my goodness. There's been a few. I think probably one thing that sticks out in my memory is loving Chardonnay as I do. My sister Jules, who's our winemaker, said to me, asked her to describe Chardonnay because I'm not a winemaker, as I said earlier. And she said it tastes like butter. And I've never forgotten that. And I love butter. So the two really work together for me. And ever since then, I've picked up on the characteristics of butter in Chardonnay, which we tend to get from, French oak and malolactic and all sorts of things. So that's one of my memories. And I had many with my dad too, with Col as well. And just his love of Bobbie Burns Shiraz, which is our most famous Shiraz, which we'll get to try today.
Was there one moment where he gave you the first taste and go, wow?
I would have been quite young.
Yeah.
And I think it was actually Muscat. I think Muscat was the first thing I had when I was a baby, and I was on Mum's hip, and they had some journalists to the winery. This was like 1974. And I was making a bit of noise, and Mum had some Muscat, and she gave me some Muscat, which quietened me down on the trick. So that's sort of where my wine journey began. I think I was at
very early.
2 months or something like that. Just a little bit on the tongue did the trick. So yeah, it is very good though.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's the last glass of wine that you had? I'm guessing it was yesterday.
It was yesterday. It was actually last night, and it was a glass of Chardonnay. We had some Japanese at Woolloomooloo. So yeah, we had my tastes are not very exotic with food at all. And I had a taste of something, and I thought, I'm not sure what that was. It was sort of an egg custard dish with a prawn in it or something. I'm not sure. So I just said straight away, could I please have a glass of Chardonnay? I just had to improve the palate a little bit. So yeah, so that was fun.
You mentioned Chardonnay a few times, but then what's your favourite grape varietal?
Probably Chardonnay. I love Giriffe, which we don't have here because it has such a history with our winery, and it's just such an intense colour. And I love pouring it for people at Cellar Door because it just has these purpley black colour, and it's so intense. And then we describe it as having violets and cherries and cigar box, and just that and Muscat, actually. I love pouring that for people because people, certainly who haven't experienced it before, just the look on their face. It's like nothing else. You don't get that with Shiraz or Chardonnay or anything like that. It's those intense characteristics they just love.
Yeah, which we delve into, which is very iconic with Rutherglen, right?
Yeah.
Next question. Person, past or present, they'll love to have a bottle of wine with, and what bottle would you pick?
Definitely Queen Elizabeth.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a massive royalist.
First, second?
Second.
Second.
Yes, I think the first one sounds a little bit scary to me. Queen Elizabeth and I, we have lots in common. Unfortunately, obviously, I didn't get to meet her, and it would probably be a bottle of Empire Port.
Oh, yes.
Which we also don't have here, but that was named after the Empire and came about in the sort of mid-70s, and we still make it today.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a good tawny port.
Does it also do Empire Shiraz? I remember one that has a very loud label on it.
That's our Empire port.
Import. Okay, got it.
Yes. So we haven't changed the label.
It really stuck out.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And of course, we can't call it port anymore.
Yeah.
So it's just called the Empire. And we continue to make that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a unique or ultimate food and wine pairing? What's your go-to?
I love gnocchi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I haven't made it yet myself, but I do love gnocchi, usually with a sort of, a creamy sauce generally. And ideally probably in an Italian restaurant in Melbourne, something like that.
And what wine would you pick for that?
What wine?
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
I'm thinking Chardonnay.
If my sister was listening, she'd be going, "Oh my goodness, Jane, you've really got to live a bit." I'm very traditional, so a nice Chablis would be good.
Yeah,
But the Chardonnay's always good, and then you can't beat a good red afterwards as well.
Definitely. Biggest lesson learned on your wine journey?
Oh my goodness, I've learned so many, made so many mistakes. I think moderation is key when you're drinking wine. Yeah. That's something as you learn as you get older, I think. But also the great thing about wine, and we tend to just get bundled in with other alcohol, is that wine is different and there's a story to wine and there's different layers. Yeah. It's not like drinking vodka or something like that, which is just so one-dimensional. Wine just has... It's such character. And you can have a Shiraz from one region, a Shiraz from other. They're completely different. I mean, our Bobbie Burns smells like nothing like a Barossa Shiraz. Yes. And they all have stories and generally generations of family winemaking behind them as well. Yeah.
A lot more emotive, I think, with wine.
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's the icebreaker questions.
Now let's take it back 155 years ago.
Oh, God. Yeah.
The origin story for our audience, if we talk about Campbell's Wines, when did it start? Who started it? Why did they start it?
Yes.
Quick summary on that. Yeah.
I'd love to know why. John Campbell, he was the founder of our winery and he arrived in Rutherglen, we think around 1860 or so, from St Andrews in Scotland. And his family were shoemakers. And they decided to come out to Rutherglen, to Australia to start with. They landed in Sydney to search for gold, as many people did back then. And he arrived in Rutherglen and was working on the Bobbie Burns gold mine. That's not a joke. It was actually called Bobbie Burns Gold Mine.
Is Bobbie Burns a person as well? Do you know? Or?
We don't know. We think it is related to Robert Burns, the Scottish poet.
Okay.
Although there'll be Scottish people listening, and I know. And Robert Burns was never called Bobbie. Ever. Yeah. It was Rabbi or Robbie, never Bobbie. Yeah. So we think because there were lots of Scottish immigrants working on this gold mine, they were having a bit of a laugh and they thought, let's call it Bobbie Burns. Yeah. So John Campbell was there toiling away. He obviously found some gold because the gold mine then flooded. So he then decided to buy land across the dirt track as it was then. It's now known as the Murray Valley Highway, and bought the land there and planted the first grapes, which I think were Riesling and Malbec, interestingly enough, because Lindsay Brown, and it's actually on the label of our Bobbie Burns, he said that there's more gold in the first 6 inches than there is further down. So it's a great quote. And so he planted vines and started making wine. And I don't know why. Maybe he liked drinking, I don't know. There were lots of vineyards going in at the same time. And that's where it started for us. And a lot of the wine was sent back over to England, to the mother country, probably in very attractive big port crockery vessels and things like that. So he was the first generation of Campbells in Rutherglen for our family. And he started it.
Yeah. And the first wines was it Riesling?
Riesling and Malbec.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. I mean, you'd think it was Muscat.
Yeah. Was that commonly grown at the time? Was it?
I don't know enough about it, but I know that he won a medal at the Melbourne Wine Show in 1889 or something like that. But then, our generation's gone from there, and there's lots of stories and heartbreak and along the way, as they generally are.
Is there still any Riesling and Malbec planted for Campbell?
Yes. But unfortunately, the original vines were wiped up by phylloxera. Yeah.
Okay. Is there one story about your family's history that you love to share all the time with the people that sell the door?
We're not really historical sorts of people, and we haven't lots of anecdotes or anything. I suppose a really good one was when in the 60s, obviously that was just a wine boom era, and we'd love to see it again, but we're not sure whether it'll happen again. But anyway, it might. So there's lots happening. There was money coming in. We started at Campbell's, we started putting proper labels on our wines, and not just labels, but also getting a designer to do the label, which was just incredible, And Mum and Dad were then married, and they decided to put a shop front on what was really 2 tin sheds with lovely peaked roofs, but that was it, corrugated iron. And there was stories around town that, Campbell's will go broke. They put a cellar door on, there's no money in wine and all this sort of thing. And and then we bought a forklift and put a fermenting house in, which was a big thing for back then in Rutherglen. And Dad actually introduced chillers for the white wines, because before then the white wines weren't chilled, going through fermentation, things like that. So that was another big expense. And my grandfather had 3 heart attacks and died.
Wow.
Yeah, there was just so much going on.
Yeah.
And he didn't actually drink, my grandfather. So there was a few things like that. But Dad was very tenacious, and the National Australia Bank have been with us all the way along, which has been great.
Yes.
And that's the story of wineries. There's, you just keep pushing forward. You can never stop. It's 24/7. You can never do enough. And particularly now we find in this heavily marketing world and social media world, it's just, there's something new every day. And I think most businesses are like that. So you've got to try and keep on top of your game whilst also remaining relevant as well, and not forgetting who you are, not forgetting your roots.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I guess that's part of the challenge of being the current 5th generation in handling all of these modern day pressures. And so you're the managing director, and your sister Jules is the winemaker.
Mm-hmm.
For you, growing up in these generations of families, was it inevitable that you were going to work there, or was it a moment where it was a decision, you know what, I want to be part of this business?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. My sister she said, I think from the age of 11, she said to my nana, she said, I'm going to be a winemaker. And my nana said, don't be ridiculous. Women aren't winemakers.
Okay.
Jules she's stubborn, and she's carried that with her. She was determined, and she did it, and that's great. And she's a very good winemaker. She's an excellent winemaker, and she keeps. When Dad wasn't well, I said, just 2 things, Jules. Make sure you know how to make Bobbie Burns, and those bloody Muscats, which we've got a lot of, keep them, keep them going, because we have a Solera process. It's complicated. We don't just have a barrel of Muscat. We actually have a Solera, which needs to be maintained every year. And we'll probably go into that a bit later on. But so I've lost my train of thought.
So for her, she knew she wanted to be a winemaker.
Jules did.
Yeah.
For me, I was a complete black sheep, eldest daughter of the family, should know, be trailblazer, all of that sort of thing. Shoved off to boarding school, away from my horse, which was devastating, but I knew that I had to do the thing, go to boarding school, 4 years there.
In Melbourne? Yeah.
Yes. Survived that. And then I just loved agriculture. So I love farming. So I headed off. I was a Jillaroo briefly in Queensland, which was an incredible experience up in the middle of Queensland, and came back and just did various things, and then went to ag college, worked in Melbourne for a year, went to England for a year. But the winery was always there. I mean, it's just part of you. And then I went back to the winery, and Dad had a rule that we had to go away for 5 years before we came back, which is a good idea. But I sort of came back a bit, now and then during those 5 years, and did all sorts of roles. I used to answer the phone back when we would take checks for payments. So I used to check off the checks. I mean, I'm sounding really old now. Actually, I'm old.
Faxes as well?
Yeah, we're all faxes. And the printing. If we did a media release, that we had to, it was all through the printer to get the print lined up and the logo. And so I've sort of been through all of that. And I was lucky enough to be there when my nana was still alive, and she used to do the books for the cellar door, and she taught me how to add the books up and do the strike rate for customers coming through. And so I had that sort of incredible experience. And then I was married, and I went on to a sheep property, and then eventually came back. And then in 2011 came back as cellar door and events manager. So did that for a few years, and and then we went through a family succession, and my sister and I ended up taking on the winery and vineyard with a little bit of farmland. So, and then I became managing director, and Jules is obviously in the Barossa. Yeah. So I'm there on the ground, and Jules is in the Barossa, and she's our winemaker, and she comes back throughout the year.
So is that succession discussion
that
really cemented that you would be part of this up until that point?
Yes,
in
it
and
really
out.
Did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
About a year before Dad died, he looked at me and he said, I think you'll have to run the show, because it's a complicated business, because we're primary, secondary and tertiary. We grow the grapes, we also bottle them for some unknown reason. And we've got a bottling line, which we've had ever since 1970s, I guess. And then we sell it too. So, yeah, we've made some big decisions since that succession. My uncle and his son took on the farmland and, yeah, we've got the winery and vineyard. And Jules and I are 50-50 owners. So, yeah.
He's got 3 daughters. Like, how is that dynamic
Oh, my God.
between like sisters trying to work together around a family business?
Yeah, it's interesting. Mum often says to me, because she's got friends who have daughters and sons, and she says, oh, they always hang out together and things like that. And I say, that's because they don't work together, you know. And I'm not saying that we don't get on, we do, but it's very different. And, you know, having a family business is amazing on one hand because you've got the tradition and the history and generations, and that really holds you together in many ways because you've got a really good foundation, and I feel it in here. But yeah, working together and because you're all different. Yeah. And my 2 sisters and myself, we're very, very different. And Jules and I are as well, but it's good because we're in different sections of the winery. So she's heavily winemaking and that works really well, and that's a big role. And then I'm on the other side just running the business and making sure the books balance and things like that, which is a constant day-to-day thing when you're running a winery because it's an expensive business.
So you kind of find your own swim lane to kind of stay in.
Yeah.
This is my turf.
Yeah.
I look after this and you look after the winemaking.
Yeah. And Jules has been great because, you know, we've done a lot with the landscaping and things like that. She's given a lot of free rein there, which is good because they're extremely busy over there with their winery as well. So, yeah.
So you've taken over the winery, was it 2019? 2019.
Yeah.
So 155 years now. Do you find that more of a privilege, a responsibility, or sometimes a burden? Like, how would you?
The 150th was going to be really great. And that was also in those years that we don't talk about, which is the COVID years. So we couldn't do very much. So then the 155th just sort of rolled around and it was sort of March, I think. And we thought, my God, we're 155. And we've got a great PR person who's like, well, you know, we have to do something. And you're so busy just trying to run things. He's like, my goodness, 155. And I think it is really important just to sort of stop and look back and think, wow, this is fabulous that things have been able to keep going. So now we're sort of looking forward to 160. Yeah. But also, it's important just to try and take stock. But it is, you do feel it. Yeah. And then you also think there's also a really practical side to it as well, where you go, you know what, if it just gets too hard, you know, you can move on. Yeah. But there's just something about home. You drive in, you feel part of it. The bottling line starts up at 8 o'clock in the morning. You go, it's because you're farmers, basically, which is amazing. You're in that harvest and something keeps you bringing you back every day because there's something different every day. You know, whether it's a storm coming in or a windstorm or a dust storm or flooding. We've had flooding. My goodness, we've had all sorts of things thrown at us and it keeps you interested.
Do you have many of those moments where you can kind of stop and reflect and go, oh my
God.
Not
many, really.
This is 155 years, like this winery, and I'm the custodian of this.
Yeah. Not many, but we're doing something in November, actually. We're having a celebration in the twilight called A Drop of Gold, which is sort of a link back to our gold finding era.
I've seen gold in wine as well.
Yes, yeah. So that's sort of a link back to there. So we're just having a small celebration there under the oak trees because we're lucky where John Campbell built the winery. We get really great sunrises from the east and sunsets in the west. Mm-hmm. It's really well positioned. So the sun comes up, goes over the winery and then sets on the vineyard. I don't think he planned it that way.
I was going to say he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he really did. We would have liked to have built the winery a little bit further back on the hill because we have been flooded a few times. Yeah. But anyway, it is what it is. So, we're firmly there. So, yeah.
And while we've been talking, I've just been smelling these wines coming through. We've got 3 wines that you've brought with you to taste and for us to experience Campbell's wines. We might start it off with the first one. It's the 2024 Trebbiano from Campbell's of Rutherglen, and it's a variety I've never had before. Why was this variety introduced?
There's a story to that one.
Yeah.
The Trebbiano, obviously Italian grape variety. I think it's one of the most widely planted grapes in Italy, and it's traditionally used as the base for cognac. It's otherwise known as Uni Blanc, but we've stuck with the name Trebbiano. I think it was originally planted in our vineyards back in the 1950s, 60s, and used for sherry. because amongst everything else that we make at Rutherglen, because we can make most wines, we made a really great sherry, and that's what the Trebbiano is there for.
Right.
And we no longer make sherry, we make it into a dry white wine. It was also the name of, we had this beautiful white cat who used to sit on Dad's office desk and sometimes on his shoulder, not in a weird sort of way, but just
like a parrot, man.
Yeah, like a parrot sometimes. This is a vague memory of mine. I was very young, but he was called Trebbiano, and he was called Trebbi. So yeah, it's a wine that we love. I think if Jules was here, she'd explain it better. But I think when it's first made, it's very bland, and I think that's why it's a really good base for cognac, because it's a really good workhorse, basically. But we love it. There's no oak. It's just a lovely, crisp, dry white. Goes really well with seafood, of which we don't have any in Rutherglen, obviously. Actually, that's the one thing about Rutherglen. We've got everything, but we're about 4 hours from the coast, which is a shame, but we can't have everything. So that's Trebbiano, always served nice and chilled. And even with 2 years age on it, it's still got really good character. So yeah, that's the story of the Trebbi.
I've never seen Trebbiano anywhere. Is it something that's frequently
It's not
in
frequent.
Australia?
No, it's really not. So we continue with it, and we've put a new label on it for the last couple of years just to pique a bit of interest with people and make it stand out a little bit more from our sort of core range.
How long have you been doing the Trebbiano for?
The white wine, I think it would be mid-70s. That's a bit of a guess, but there was a lot of experimenting happening in the 70s, 60s, 70s. So, yeah.
Because I guess my thought is, like Rutherglen or Campbell's, it's more than just Muscats and Topaques.
It is. It really is. Yeah. It's the Muscat and Topaques is our main draw card. That's why people know Rutherglen. And, you mention Rutherglen, they say, stickies or fortifieds or Muscat. And we say, yeah, and that's great. And they come and they might buy a bottle. But obviously we've got these lovely long autumns where we get really rich fruit. And that's where the whites and the reds most particularly really stand out.
Yeah, because you mentioned the daily temperature variation as well, being, what was it?
Yeah, we can get down to -6, and we're often on the news for being the coldest spot in Victoria. And then we can get up to, 40, 45 in summer. Yeah.
Which means you get ripe fruit, but you also retain that fruit intensity through the coldness at night as well.
Yes. And that's why we usually pick in the middle of the night. Well, we used to. It's improved now with, obviously, with cooling and things like that too. But yeah, so we sort of start up 4 or 5 in the morning.
Just to describe it, it feels like it's kind of Pinot Grigio vibes, but maybe, kind of freshness to it, which when you said kind of seafood, yes, that's the wine that I'll have with seafood, but it's a bit like yin and yang as well, because you have these kind of slightly more kind of heavier, stickier, but then you want these kind of fresher, more lifted type of wine, kind of balance it out.
Yeah. That's actually how we describe it. It's a little, because Pinot Grigio is obviously so well known.
Yeah.
And people come in and they say, have you got a Pinot Grigio? And we say, no, we do have Trebbiano. and that's our, Italian stallion, if you like it, that we've got. So, yeah, that's how we describe it.
Very cool.
There needs to be more Trebbiano is the way I'm seeing it.
I think so too.
Yeah. So let's talk about Rutherglen. And for me, I haven't visited there. And the location, the terroir, so the soil, the climate, etc. Are you able to share a bit of that to help educate our audience around it?
Yes. So Rutherglen, obviously, it was really rich with gold mining originally. We can get quite quartzy soils as well, but we can also get we call it Rutherglen loam, which is quite a clay-based soil. And it's with the climate, we do have that lovely continental climate. So we're very fortunate, although we do get frost, and we're coming into frost season now, which is a bit scary because those little buds are like, they're starting to get woolly, and as soon as they get woolly, that means that the growth is starting to come. Yeah. But we're still getting frost at home. So we put in a frost fan 1 or 2 years ago, and I thought, this thing will probably sit there and we'll never use it. But yeah, we've already had it on to test it just to get it running, because it's too important. And if you get a bad frost, you're done.
Yeah.
So, so we do get the frost, and then we hopefully, once we get past that into October, Melbourne Cup Day is the safe day. If we can get to Melbourne Cup without a frost, that means that our buds and our vines are going to be pretty much safe in a way to get us through into vintage, which is February, March. So, yeah, and then we get those lovely warm summer days, and then we go into autumn, which is also still good, nice warm days but cooler nights, and that's really good ripening for our grapes.
Yeah. Just for people's perspective, what's the best way to get to Rutherglen? Is it a drive from Sydney, drive from Melbourne?
So many ways. Rutherglen is a fabulous spot. Yeah. Mind you, we don't want too many people in there because everyone discovered it during the sort of the bad years, as we call them, like the COVID years. Yeah. Lots of people discovered our beautiful little town. So it's hard to get a park now. It is seriously busy. But the best way to get there, well, there's a few ways. Highway access is really easy. From Sydney, you can leave Sydney and there's no traffic lights between Sydney and Rutherglen. Because we're just a little pull-off between Melbourne and Sydney, basically. So that's really easy. So good podcast, listen to you guys. You know, just stick them on, stick you on the radio.
Of course, very nice.
So that's a little plug for you.
Thank you.
Melbourne's the same. You just drive up to Rutherglen, very easy. It's only 3 hours, a bare 3 hours, a bit under 6 from Sydney. We're close to Canberra as well, so easy for Canberrians. And then there's an airport in Albury, and we're only half an hour from Albury. Yeah. So, yeah.
But you do want more people there, right? You want...
We do. We love people. And we'd love them to all come to Campbell's and fill our cellar door up. It's fantastic. Yeah. Actually, John Campbell did get that right because we're only about 1.5 kilometres from Rutherglen. Yeah. So we're very close, which is great. And we've got really good cafes and restaurants in Rutherglen. And it's a really historic town. It goes up and down the main street, goes up a hill and down. So, and lovely old verandas all the way. Yeah. So it's very historic. And we've got some great pubs. The Victoria Hotel has just recently been renovated and has won all sorts of awards, and it's just incredible. And our cellar doors are,
So if you're a Sydney-sider that's going to go there, if we're going to ask you, where's the best place to stay in Rutherglen, what would you recommend?
Oh, there's a few. Well, the Victoria has just redone all of their accommodation, and apparently the rooms are amazing. I've only seen photos. I haven't been to have a look yet. We also have the original Seppelts building, which was back in the 1800s. It still has the palm trees out the front. Oh. So, of course, Seppelts are famous for their palm trees. So we still have them in Rutherglen, and they were one of the founders of Rutherglen wine industry. So you can stay there as well, and that's now owned by De Bortleys, and they have fabulous rooms. So they're the two places that are top of mind to stay.
And then the best dish or best restaurant to eat?
There's a great little restaurant called Grace, and they help us out a lot at the winery because we don't do food. We just do charcuterie platters because we concentrate on wine, and they come out and they help us with catering. So they do our Bobbie Burns dinner, which is our annual dinner, and they're just amazing. Yeah. So they have fabulous food.
And then
we're very spoiled.
It sounds like, and this is why I wanted to ask, because as someone born and bred there, you probably have some great local secret things that no one else knows about. Yeah. Is there a top activity that you'd recommend to do in the area? Great watering hole or something like that?
Yeah, well, we're close to the Murray River.
Yeah, okay.
So that is something to see because it's such a powerful river and it's a lifeblood for us because we have irrigation. So we call it our liquid gold. We have lots of liquid golds in Rutherglen, but that's another one of them is the Murray River, and that's just fabulous to go and visit. And we're not far from the ski fields either, but that's not in Rutherglen. Yeah. But the Murray River's on our doorstep.
You didn't mention the big wine bottle.
Oh my goodness, the wine bottle. Oh dear. Well, that was actually originally a water tank. And it had a flat top on it. And then the Wine Festival Committee, which was a dangerous committee, my dad was part of it. Back in the 1970s, this is like early winery walkabout days, but it was called the Wine Festival. They decided to make it look like a wine bottle. So they created this mesh top that goes up like that, like the top of a wine bottle. Yeah. And there's old photos of a crane or something and lots of ladders, I'm sure, of them putting this top on the wine bottle. So the wine bottle is iconic, and they do tours of it now too. So you can actually go inside and see what it is. And you can see it from everywhere. I can't believe I forgot that. And there's some great photography on Rutherglen Instagram pages. We've got a very lively What's On in Rutherglen page, and we've got some great photographers too. And there's some great drone footage with the wine bottle.
There we go. I think we got our itinerary booked.
I've been to the wine bottle, but I didn't get a chance to go to the town. Yeah. I was staying in one of the neighbouring wine regions.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's handmade, that red clay I was talking about, which our homestead at the winery that John Campbell built by hand, I'm sure he had some help as well, but the handmade bricks, the colour of them is incredible. And throughout the day, day, the colour changes. It's this deep red and then it goes to a real orange. So it's really something to see.
Is there also a best time to visit Rutherglen?
Probably in autumn when the colours are coming out in the vineyards, and also that's harvest time. Yeah. So it's all happening. And particularly at home, we're a very open winery, so you can come in and it's a very genuine winery. You walk in and you can see barrels and you can touch the barrels. It's not behind glass or a curtain or anything like that. It is there to see, along with all the smells of a working winery too.
So Easter break next year.
Yeah, Easter is a great time. It's really busy, but it's really great. And the weather's really good because it's not too warm and it's not too cold. It's just that lovely mid-temperature. Yeah. Yeah.
Great. All right. So we've just had the Trebbiano. There are other whites that are also grown in the area, like Rhône varietals, Viognier, Roussanne, Marsanne as well.
Yes.
What was the decision around introducing those? Why those varieties?
I think for a little bit of variety. Yeah. And also because of our climate, the Rhône varieties they really work. Yeah. And also Dad, with our Bobbie Burns, wanted to make a Rhône style red that was easy on the palate and just had really good flavours and things. So I'm thinking that's where those varieties came in. And also the Viognier and the Roussanne, I think that it was a marketing decision back then, which I wasn't involved in, obviously. But the Viognier, it does really well. I'm not a Roussanne fan. And I said to Jules, we can't sell it. What are we doing with this variety, However, we put it into the blend, which I think was probably where Roussanne's more famously known in the MVR, and it just works so well. So it can stay for the moment. Yeah. And it is one of those wines, Roussanne, that needs a little bit of time to develop. That's just what I think, a complete punter palate, honestly. But it just needs, it's a hard variety to sell on its own. But as a blend, it works, as so many wine varieties do, unlike the Trebbiano, which can stand on its own.
It's funny when you say it, for the Bobbie Burns, that kind of Rhône style. When I first smelt it, that's what I got.
Is that right?
Yeah,
okay. Oh, good.
Rhône, so
we're going all right then.
You're going all right.
Okay.
And it's probably a good segue into 2022 Bobbie Burns Shiraz.
What's the story behind this one?
Oh, my gosh. So Bobbie Burns, it was the name of the gold mine originally, and then John Campbell moved over the road, built his vineyard and called his property Bobbie Burns. So that's still the name of our property, Bobbie Burns, Proprietary Limited. And in 1969, I think Dad was playing around with these red wines and wanted to make this. Dad was very much a fruit-forward person, as in he said, the fruit should hit the roof of your mouth when you have a glass of wine. That fruit should be foremost, and that's what he wanted to do, and he developed Bobbie Burns. And, it's been a great marketing thing because it's a really well-known name, and 1970 was the first vintage. And I think we're up to 54 consecutive vintages now of Bobbie Burns. So great red, really approachable when it's young, but it also sells for 10 to 15 years at times, depending on the vintage. Yeah.
Have you ever done any verticals through
We have, yeah. Yep, and they've all stood up really well, obviously with vintages, and is that the great thing about winemaking, that you get difficult vintages? I don't know, and really good ones, but some are better than others, but there are certainly some standouts. The 1996 Bobbie Burns, I think that's when we first started doing them in magnums. Yeah. So if we have a really good year, we'll put it into a magnum, a single magnum and a double magnum. 96 was a really good dry year. That's still drinking beautifully. Yeah. The 2002, and then we had the 13, which is amazing. 15, 16, 17, 18 were all really good. 19 was crackerjack. That was a big Bobbie. We had to really rein that one in, apparently, according to Jules, winemaker. And it's just been consistently great wine.
Stylistically, it still remained very
much so. Yeah. It's really important. That's our hallmark is Bobbie. It's very, very much loved. We've heard all sorts of stories about people and their Bobbie Burns. One lady likes to keep it under her bed because she feels secure with Bobbie Burns boxes, like dozens of boxes under her bed, which was quite extreme. But it's we've got it on the label. It's like a friend for many people. They just love Bobbie, and once they get a taste for it, and particularly people that don't drink red wine, they've said, I don't usually drink reds. In fact, had it yesterday at our lunch, but I love that. And it's meant to be approachable. So it's not full of black pepper and all those sorts of traditional Shiraz tastes.
It's a medium-bodied red that has more kind of like purple fruits for me, like kind of slight kind of radicchio bitterness to it, but it does taste like that kind of, you mentioned like red clay.
Yes.
That's sort of that kind of that earthy kind of body to it as well with a hint of spice. So
yes.
I love, like, without having not tasted this before, I always think about, you talk about like the Muscats and Topaques, but kind of this heavy, rich type of wine. I always kind of associate Rutherglen with everything kind of heavy.
Yes, yes.
Then now having this Shiraz, it's delicious.
Yeah, well, that's so good to hear. Yeah. And when you talk about rich reds, we certainly have our Giriffe, which we couldn't bring everything here today, but Giriffe is one of those reds that Dad, it was traditionally known as a knife and fork wine. Like you had to sit down and really take it seriously. And there's still those styles around and they're amazing. What Dad thought he'd do with our Giriffe is he called it thoroughbred, is to really refine it and bring out the elegance in the Giriffe, which is where I talked earlier about the violets and cherries and things like that coming up, but you've got this intense colour. So, yeah, that's a really good wine for people to source out, a Giriffe from Rutherglen. They're well known.
What food would you have at this one? I've got an idea, but what would you have?
Have you? I've got one. It'd be really traditional too. Steak is always good. Just beautiful steak or a lovely fillet of beef with some horseradish.
Yeah.
And then, but it's great barbecue. That's the thing with Bobbie. I mean, it sits at $28.
Wow.
And, it's really reasonable. And we like it to sit around there so that everyone can enjoy it. And it will go with everything, pizza, everything. Yeah. It's very accommodating.
Mine was like kind of like spring lamb with some charred veg and stuff like that.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And we grow good lamb in Rutherglen too.
Another reason to visit.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great steaks, great lamb.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Yep, for sure. And olives too. We don't have olives ourselves, but we've got olives in the region for sure. Yeah.
Now, we were talking about what Rutherglen and Campbells are known for, and it is the fortifieds.
Yes.
We're fortunate to have one here. So we'll jump into that one. So this is the Rutherglen Muscat from Campbells.
So for a new consumer, like what is a muscat? What's a Topaque? I think I've heard muscat and Topaque before, but I don't know really what it is.
Yes. So Topaque used to be called Tokae.
Okay.
So that's the first little trick. We had to unfortunately change the name because of the Hungarians, and there was a similarity to the name Tokae. Even though they're completely different grape varieties. So we won't go into that argument now. It was a while ago. And the name went to a vote, and we came up with Topaque.
So Rutherglen as a community voted for this, or who voted for it?
The growers, I believe, and the winemakers, and it came up with Topaque. So Muscat it's actually the Muscadel grape.
Yeah.
We decided to stick with Topaque because we believe the name Muscadel was too close to Muscat and consumers might get confused. So basically, long story short, it is made from the Muscadel grape, the Topaque is, but it's called Topaque. The Muscat is the Rutherglen brown Muscat grape. Muscat, and my French is really bad. Jules is also good with French, so she's way above me. But it's Muscat, a Petit, Grand Rouge, brown grapes. So we call it Rutherglen Brown Muscat. And it's our own clone that we have at Rutherglen, and it's very particular to Rutherglen. And I think when people first try it, the nose is really important. It's the fruit just bounces out, and this is our youngest muscat, so it's really vibrant, and it's around about 4 to 5 years old. And so for some, just the nose is enough because it's so rich and so intense and it's beautifully laid. And then when you taste it, we all call it plum pudding in a glass, just sun-drenched raisins, because the grapes stay on the vine for a long time until they get really quite not so drawn in, so that there's no moisture. But that's where the winemakers just decide, and our viticulturists as well, just decide when to pick. And it has to get to a certain Baumé level or sugar level, which is around 17 to 18%. So that translates into Baumé somehow. I don't know. I'm not a winemaker, but that's how it translates. So they sit around 17% with the Rutherglens. And they're lovely room temperature, particularly on a frosty morning, potentially, or around a fire, but also in summer. You can pop them in the fridge and chill them. You can even put them in the freezer just the bottle, and they just freeze it down. It's delicious over ice cream.
Oh, yum.
Yeah, really good with some sort of toasted nuts on the top. Keep it really simple, and it'll just shine.
Yeah.
What ice cream? Vanilla ice cream, is that?
Vanilla ice cream. Yeah, nothing too out there. Just a really good vanilla ice cream. Like, it really does work. And good for cocktails too. Yeah.
What kind of cocktails would you be making here out of this?
What do they do at the winery? They put tonic water in there and a little bit of lime as well. And it's just it just takes that sweetness off.
Yeah.
But you've still got the lovely depth on the palate.
Right.
So, it really works. We've got them on our website, actually, how to do it.
I can make that. Oh, that's not
it's quite
a
simple.
challenging thing. So great. Okay, I'm going to give that a go.
Yeah. And just the colour is just gorgeous. And obviously we've got 4 classifications at home, which is the Rutherglen Classic, Grand and Rare. So the Rutherglen is the palest in colour. So you can, and that's still quite deep. So you can imagine by the time you get up to the Rare, which is our Merchant Prince, which is over 80 years old, it's getting really intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, I was reading the Merchant Prince was awarded 100 points at some point. Wine Spectator magazine done it.
Yes.
What is it about these fortifieds that are coming from Campbell's that are quite unique and make it special?
I think it's probably the Solera. I think that's helped us a lot. We don't just have a couple of barrels tucked away. Instead, we have lots of barrels, and we've got up to a 4 to 5 stage Solera, which is based on the sherry system, Solero. And so that's what we have at home. And Dad was very, very particular about it. So that it means that every year we top it up with fresh Muscat, and we do the same with Topaque as well. And then we draw out from the bottom cask, basically. If you come to the winery, you'll see the Solera set up, and then we draw from the cask when it's ready. And then every year we top it up, so we get this lovely layering effect. So it's not, we've got these lovely dimensions in the wine, and I think that's what stands out. Plus, having said that, we also get a lovely consistency because it's like Bobbie Burns. We want it to taste consistently.
What's the stages? What does that equate to?
So there's 1 to 4, and I think the Merchant Prince and Isabel are up to 5. And basically, if you can imagine, it's sort of shaped like that. Like a triangle. And if you can imagine sort of see-through invisible hoses joining the casks, you literally top in from the top. And if you can imagine it going into the layers of barrels each year, and each year they move down a layer as you add in from the top. I think I've got this right. And then that's how you get that layering effect. So it builds and builds and builds and builds.
Right.
So that's where we'd say with the Rutherglen, it's around 4 to 5 to 6 years age. It's not a definite age because it's a blend. And the same with the Classic, Grand and Rare as well.
Right. So the fresh liquid that's being put in at the top is combined with the 80-year-old at the bottom.
Which is really important.
Wow.
Otherwise, if you just have 80-year-old material, it's quite dry, really thick, and you don't have that freshness and that fruit that Dad loves so much. So that's why even with the Merchant Prince, and I think why it's so heavily awarded, it has all the tradition on the palate and that lovely weight and richness, but it has that lift of the fruit. So that it just keeps you guessing. And wanting more, hopefully.
Is that oldest material is 80 years old at the moment?
Yeah, probably over that now.
Over that now?
Yeah, with the Merchant Prince. Yeah.
Does that mean the barrel's also that old as well?
Yeah, we've got really old barrels. I don't know how on earth they got them in there, but men were real men back then. I mean, they had big, big barrels. And we're talking, over 155 years now, those barrels. And they're painted red. And we don't know why they're painted red. We just wonder whether someone was bored, like
like
in
red.
the late 1800s. I don't know, but we've kept them going. They're beautiful red-face casks. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You mentioned like the different classifications, Rutherglen Classic, Grand, Rare. What would a consumer expect from each of those different classifications?
So the Rutherglen Youth, really upfront fruit. The Classic is a little bit more subdued, slightly richer on the palate, a little bit more weight, and sort of more intense fruit, I guess, on the nose, slightly deeper in colour. The Grand is a little bit drier on the palate, but still obviously has that freshness and deeper in colour, more intense. And then the Merchant Prince, it just stands alone. It's named after the ship that John Campbell came out on. So another great marketing name, Merchant Prince. So thanks, John. That was good. I actually met someone the other day at the Good Food and Wine Show who's forebears were on the Merchant Prince as well, the same ship that came out from St Andrews, Scotland. So that's the name of our rare muscat. So.
Is that classification used for both Topaques and Muscats?
Yes. And it's a system that Dad was one of the forebears of bringing it in because we have lots of names like liqueur this, liqueur that, and he really wanted to say, no, Muscat is more than that, and Topaque. There are layers to these wines and there's not one age because they're a blended age. So that was his reasoning behind bringing the classification system so that consumers could understand more about these incredible wines.
And is that very specific towards Campbell's or is that adopted?
No, he actually formed the Muscat of Rutherglen network. So there's certain muscat producers that are within that group, and tastings are held every year to make sure that it's a good benchmarking exercise to see where you stand. Yeah.
We haven't delved into it, but before we talked about Topaques and Muscats for a new consumer. What's the key differences between the two?
Yeah, there is. I find, and we were talking about this yesterday actually, Topaque is slightly lighter, very slightly lighter, and it's more butterscotch, honey, caramel, all those yummy things, tea leaves.
Still great with ice cream.
Yeah, really great with ice cream. They all are. We used to say rancio character, but I don't think we're allowed to use the word rancio anymore. I'm not sure why that is, but anyway. And they are stored in oak casks, but we don't want oak character on them. So they're old oak casks. So that's why we can justify buying brand new French oak for our white wines because they have a long history with us. They go to white wine, then they go to the reds, and then after 4 or 5 or 6 years, they go into the fortifieds. So, so we've got a long-standing history with buying oak barrels, brand new, and then depreciating them off over the years. The Topaque is, that's the style of Topaque, honey, butterscotch, caramel, slightly lighter on the palate, but still sweet. And then the Muscat is plum pudding, raisins, chocolate, just sort of that unctuous sweetness, but still very clean finish. Dad was really, and Jules too, keen on all of that cloying sweetness, but having a clean finish because sometimes they can get really heavy. Yeah. And that's where that clean, almost acidity can come through and just tidies up the palate.
So I'm going to jump around because it just popped in my head. The Solera system.
Yes.
Is there 5 stages at the moment? Yeah,
I think we're up to 5. We're definitely 4. Yeah. Yes.
Do you just keep on adding or?
No, not anymore. That's a good question. Yeah, no, I think we stop at 5. Okay. And obviously our production has decreased of these wines just to consumer taste, and Muscat not being selling or as much as we used to. However, it's stage 5 is fine. Yeah, it's enough. Yeah.
No, I'm loving this Muscat. It does. Yeah. It's that raisiny sticky date pudding, but also that kind of off the palate, it's like creme brulee style as well.
Yes. And you can just drop an ice block in too, and it just chills it. You just got to remember it's still 17%, but it's okay.
It's fun because I always think of the fortifieds as being really heavy, and you can't have too much.
It's got freshness to it, yeah.
But and there's lightness to this still. It's not overly viscous. It's not too overpowering in terms of flavor. It's really nice. There's actually delicate, in some ways, which is really good. You touched on consumer trends. I think that's an interesting topic. You had some stuff.
Yeah. So I was looking, I was just like, it's growing like 8 to 9% annually. Globally, the market's going to reach about 11 billion in this year, 2025. Why do you think that's the case? And have you seen it in Rutherglen as well, this kind of trend towards more consumption of fortified wines?
Well, I think I'm not sure whether our fortifieds, they're not growing so much, but we know that we'll sell. If someone comes into the winery, they'll most likely buy at least a bottle of fortified, I think, because they are so different and just the history of them as well. And also Rutherglen's famous for it. So I think that's probably why it'd be a popular choice.
But you see people coming to the cellar door, I guess more of a younger age group as well. Are they starting to love these fortifieds as well?
Yes, they are. And I think the wine industry, it just ebbs and flows so much. And that's where it's tricky because you're planting grapes that you won't get, you're planting vines, that you might not get the grapes off for 4 to 5 years. So you want to hope that you've got that marketing trend or whatever it is, right? I mean, for example, we've just planted Grenache, Marsanne, and some more Portuguese varieties because we love those too. They also do really well in our vineyards. So we're really hoping that in 4 or 5 years' time, people are still drinking wine and that they're enjoying these varieties. But yeah, there's so much planning that goes into it. So you've got to hope that you've got the investment right. And they're not cheap things to put in either. They're very labour intensive. So so it's trying to pick the mark. But obviously we've always had Muscats. So, and that's something that will keep drawing people to our region, which is wonderful. So
you've got your core around the Muscats and Topaques, been making these big bets as well around alternative varieties.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. And I think Grenache, we tried the Grenache with our rosé to see how it would go, and it's going really well. So I thought, right, we'll plant some Grenache in our vineyard. So hopefully it's taken off really well. We just grafted some. So that's exciting. So yeah, hopefully, because I think rosé is, well, my sister's a very good rosé maker. She used to make turkey flat rosé. So I said, Jules, hey, you used to make turkey flat rosé. Just make a great rosé like turkey flat, ideally, and we'll sell at the winery. You know, it'd be fabulous, and it's going really well. I mean, everyone loves rosé. You know, there's a market for it at the moment. So, but it's also great to plant a vine that has grapes on it that's going to be versatile. As well. So
I can imagine you and your sister having some very robust discussions.
We have had, definitely, particularly around a tasting table, because I've got a very good Campbell's palate, whereas Jules's palate's much broader, obviously, and she's a winemaker. So, and they're creative beasts. But you've also got to try and sell it on the other end. So she's sort of very much at the beginning and the middle, and then I'm at the end trying to sell and balance the books and things like that. So, so it's an interesting relationship, but there's a lot of respect there. I really respect Jules's palate and her experience. I mean, she's done vintages overseas and all sorts of things. So, I
think that's family. I guess that's family. You're always going to have robust discussions. You're tight in it.
I'm thinking as teenagers, were you like that as well?
I didn't see much of Jules because I was the oldest and she was the youngest, and she was on her winemaking journey, and I was sort of on my agricultural horse journey. I always wanted to do something with horses, and I wanted to go to horse college, agricultural college, and study horses. And the mum called the college and said, you know, my daughter's thinking of doing this horse course. And he said, look, my advice would be for your daughter to become a lawyer and have horses as a hobby. which was very good advice, because you do need money if you've got horses. They're like a black hole at times. But anyhow, I've managed to keep horses as a hobby, so that's been good. But yeah, Jules and I, it's good. And yeah, we're quite separate growing up for our ages, because she's a bit younger than me. Yeah. She's also got 3 boys now too, so she's seriously busy. And her husband has Elderton Winery, so in the Barossa, So we're constantly playing Barossa, Rutherglen off together, and I don't see it. There's no similarities at all. Rutherglen is streets ahead as far as I'm concerned. And
obviously different in the Shiraz as well.
Yeah, very, very different. Yeah. So we have good, robust discussions. So.
Well, we should do a blind then between Elderton and
Yes, we definitely should. I'm sure Cam and Jules would love to come on and talk about it.
There we go. Now, if we kind of talk about the future here, and you know, you're already talking about children and the next generation as being a member of Australia's first family of wines. Yeah. That generational continuation of what the business does. What are you saying to the next generation to kind of have them interested in this? Or are you saying anything at all?
Yeah, well, we've started having discussions. My daughter's, she'll be 20 this year. And she's doing accountancy, which I think is actually a fantastic idea. And I said, you need to learn about winery accounting, because we're so heavily taxed. We've got wet tax, 29%, and then the GST. So our wines are taxed by 39% before they go anywhere. Plus, we put all this investment into them to start with. So if you talk to them now and said, would you like to start up a winery? They'd probably say, no way. But the fact is, there is a winery there at the moment that obviously, all going well, they'll inherit. However, they'll have to sort that out too, because Jules has got 3 boys. I've got 1, Caroline, so 1 girl. So I think the earlier you can do it, the better. Our successions were left very late. And, you know, we've just got through our one, and we're sort of in early 50s. So, yeah, ideally try and plan early. and they say that with all family businesses, is be proactive with it and talk about it.
So you are already having the discussion.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how far Jules has got with her boys, but it is one of those things, the winery, because it's always there. You know it's there, but you want to go off and have your own journey. And there shouldn't be the pressure to come back either, because you have to really love what you're doing. Yeah. Because it can be really tough.
Well, you're spending every day on it, so
you are, yeah. And you're also building a team. I mean, we've got a great team of people that we work with at the winery who keep everything running and keep all the wheels greased. And we've got a great winemaker at home Ian's been with us he's coming up to nearly 20 years as well. So there's a lot of history there and a lot of knowledge and a lot of intellectual property kept up here too that's not written down. Yeah. So, yeah.
155 years down.
Yes.
Let's say 20 years' time, 175 years.
Yeah.
Like, where do you want to see Campbell's at that point in time?
I'd love to see it thriving and still really relevant to everyone. I'd love to see people still coming through the doors and experiencing just a working winery. Hopefully it's not all wrapped up in OH&S safety, security sort of stuff where you can't touch this and things like that, where people can come in and be a part of the winery, and also just have that first experience like smelling a muscat for the first time. Hopefully things are still really real in 20, 25 years' time, because that's what we are at the winery. It's a real experience and, just stay true to who you are, be really authentic, and hopefully they're still buying rosé because we planted Grenache. And hopefully they're still buying muscats too because we've got plenty of it and we love it. And hopefully Bobbie Burns continues on. I mean, that would be amazing to see 100 years of Bobbie Burns. It'd be incredible. And just build on the generations before. Yeah.
So that's a long-term vision. Let's take it back to about 5 years. Like, what other kind of bets have you done? We mentioned alternative varietals and also Grenache as well. So anything else that's exciting coming up?
Well, what's exciting? I guess there's a couple of little things in the pipeline that I can't mention at the moment that we're sort of thinking. I think diversification is key to just keep us interested as well, because as I mentioned before, we're heavily agricultural. So we've got a sort of farming enterprise as well. So looking at integrating that a little bit more, and just working with our land. We're so fortunate to own country. And we love it. We grow the grapes, we grow the wheat and pasture and lucerne, and we grow fat lambs, and it's just every day is a new day, really. It's a beautiful part of the country, and I think for us to actually be lucky enough to own land, it can be hard and tough and devastating at times, but it really grounds you. And pardon the pun there, but it really does. And also, I'd love to plant more trees. I'd love to plant oak trees and beautiful trees so that people can come and, relax. And but also, I think tree planting and just conservation of our land is so important. Yeah, the more that we give to our land, the more it will give to us, and we work in harmony like that. So
I'm going to take a tangent then, because planting trees is also sustainability as well.
Yes.
Why is that important for Campbell's?
Well, it is really important. I know it's now a lot of government red tape. Oh, you're part of the sustainable wine growing. Well, we've always been sustainable, and the reason I say that is because we're still there. Yeah. So our vineyards are still thriving and everything. And the only way, as I said before, look after your country and look after you, and that's what we've done. And certainly practices have changed. Things used to be sprayed out a lot more often than they are now. So because as technology and science improves and our knowledge improves, we know how to do things better. So we brought sheep back into the vineyards for the first time in years, because we've got dripper lines for our irrigation. We're thinking, those little sheep, they'll be jumping over the dripper lines and snapping them, which will cause, have to go back and fix them and everything. And they were so well behaved. They were really good. And they ate all the little weeds growing up and things like that. And of course, their manure, their little droppings were all through the vineyard. And people with vineyards have been doing it for years, but we hadn't done it for many years. So we brought them back this year, and they're plump little lambs running around, going off to market, and they'll taste delicious. And they ate up all the old grapes that we didn't harvest this year. And so they've had a great time. Wow. But doing those sorts of things, it's such fun, and it's a bit of a chore to go through the paperwork each year. But as I say, we've always been sustainable, but every year we're improving on what we're doing.
I'm imagining that picture of the lambs. And
Yeah,
the sheep.
yeah.
It's like what grows together goes together.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I imagine like these having this Bobbie Burns Shiraz flavoured lamb.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, they say that you can taste, you can taste it in sheep, in meat. You can taste what they've been eating to a point.
Yeah.
And Bobbie Burns does go beautifully with lamb. So watch this space.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
They look cute, but they're also very delicious.
Yeah.
We're probably at the tail end of the interview. Did you have any last key messages for our audience? Anything you wanted to share?
I guess what I say to lots of people is just come and visit Rutherglen, because the great thing about Rutherglen is we have great wineries, obviously, and really good weather most of the time. Is with great accommodation, restaurants, cafes. We also have a great history, and the other good thing too is that when people are in their car, it's like a village atmosphere, and the wineries are not far from each other. Mm-hmm. So, we can be, Stanton and Colleen, for example, is just across the road from us. Lake Moodamere just down from us. We're all quite close. So really in one day touring, even an afternoon, you could do 4 or 5. Yeah.
Sounds like a good day.
And we're all different.
Yeah.
Which is great. So it's a great thing. And just going back to AFFW, one of the reasons that was brought about was to show particularly the export market that it wasn't all about yellowtail, that Australia have a generational history. And so we've been lucky enough to work with some of the big powerhouses. You think Brown Brothers, Yalumba, for example, a huge favourite of mine and of everyone's, probably just these multi-generational wineries that are actually making fabulous wines too. And Australia has a history, even though we're such a young country. It has such great history. Yeah. So, come to Rutherglen. It's not far. You can come not by boat. Well, you could on the Murray River, I suppose, by speedboat or something.
Paddle steamer? No.
Paddle steamer, maybe, yeah, mate. But also, we just love welcoming people and just seeing that delight when they walk in and go, wow, this is our first time here. Tell us about this place, Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Trent, any last reflections?
Probably last reflections is I think you really sold Rutherglen Campbells as well. But I love the story and the history around it, 155 years. And, and the other reflection is again, it's not only about fortified wines. There's also so much more to offer as well. And go visit as well, the cafes, the restaurants. I do want to visit. I do want to visit as well.
Well, we'd love to have you down there. That would be great.
Yeah. The actual tasting helped encourage that as well. Yeah. I didn't know what to expect, but from this tasting, it's like Rutherglen is not just about fortifieds.
No.
Not at all. Like, enjoy the Trebbiano. Shiraz has got its own identity, and fortified's obviously doing well, but you're not going to a region just to have one style or one thing to taste. You're getting a variety, which is fantastic. So thanks for giving us the insight into that and sharing your story with our audience.
Pleasure. I think the other thing too that is interesting, I was just thinking of the Portuguese and Spanish varieties that do really well. Yeah. They were originally planted for port. So like Trebbiano was originally planted for sherry. The Portuguese varieties that we planted for port making, we now make into a dry red.
Yeah.
So that's how things evolve.
Would you use it for fortified port?
We still make the Empire Port,
obviously,
which is still going, which is great, which is a Shiraz-based port.
Would you use the Portuguese varietals?
Maybe. If we get a really good vintage port, we could do that because they are, that's another story again.
You couldn't call it port though.
No, I know, which is crazy. But anyway, the land of port, Portugal, come down on me for saying that. But so that's where things evolve.
Yeah.
And I think as winemakers and custodians and grape growers, you've got to be able to evolve.
Yeah. It sounds like that's what each generation's challenge is, still using what you've got from the past and making it evolve for consumers.
Yeah, very much so.
So Campbell's are doing a great job. Jane, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
Perfect. That's us here at the Wind Up. Visit Campbell Wines in Rutherglen. Definitely check out their website, campbellswines.com.au. We got to book in a trip to Rutherglen.
Awesome cellar door as well. We have a look at it.
Yeah, the photos look great. That's us at the Wind Up. As we like to say here, drink more, try more, learn more. Thanks all.